Apollo astronauts landed on the moon 6 times. Every time they found the same thing: dry dust, dead rock, sunlight, and silence. They collected the samples they could collect, ran the experiments they could run, and came back. Because there was nothing else to do on the moon. For 53 years, that did not change. Then, in 2009, NASA crashed a spacecraft into a crater near the moon's south pole. Inside the debris cloud that rose from the surface, there was water. Billions of tons of frozen water, sitting in shadows at the bottom of craters where sunlight has not reached for billions of years. And where there is water, everything changes. Because water splits into oxygen, you breathe. It splits into hydrogen, you make fuel. In a single discovery, the moon stopped being a place to visit and became a place to stay. But there is an enormous distance between a place where you can stay and a place where you actually do. You have to extract the ice, melt it, split it, store it. That takes infrastructure. And before any of that, you need to know whether human beings can survive the journey there and back. Not robots, people. Flesh, bone, and blood, sealed inside a capsule for 10 days, falling back into Earth's atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour. The last time anyone tried that was December of 1972. That is what Artemis is. Not a flag mission, not a victory lap. It is the beginning of a supply chain between Earth and the moon and everywhere else. Because propellant manufactured from lunar ice means you do not have to haul every drop of fuel from the bottom of Earth's gravity well, which is the single most expensive thing about spaceflight. Earth's gravity demands enormous energy to escape. The moon's gravity is 1/6 of that. If you can refuel on the moon becomes a launch pad, not just for Mars, for the moons of Jupiter, for the outer solar system, for places we have only seen through telescopes. This is why we are going back. We are going back because in 2009, a spacecraft kicked up ice from the floor of a crater and turned the moon from a dead end into a doorway. But a supply chain requires a first shipment. A road requires a first step. On April 1st, 2026, 4 astronauts launched from Kennedy Space Center on top of the most powerful rocket NASA has ever flown. The Space Launch System produces 8.8 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. 2 minutes after launch, at 29 miles altitude, the solid rocket boosters burned out and fell away. 6 minutes later, the core stage engines cut off. 10 minutes after leaving the ground, the crew was in orbit. The spacecraft sitting on top of that rocket is called Orion. The crew named it Integrity. Inside, 4 people will live for 10 days in a space not much larger than a delivery van. Commander Reed Wiseman spent 165 days on the International Space Station in 2014. But the station orbits 250 miles above Earth. This mission will take him 1,000 times farther. Pilot Victor Glover becomes the first black astronaut to travel beyond low Earth orbit. Mission specialist Christina Koch, who holds the record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman at 328 days, becomes the first woman to fly to the moon's vicinity. And then there is Jeremy Hansen, Canadian Space Agency, former fighter pilot. He has never been to space. His first flight is directly to the moon. They are not going to land. Artemis II is a test flight. They will loop around the moon's far side and come back. But this is the first time humans have flown on the Space Launch System, the first time anyone has been inside Orion in space. Life support, navigation, deep space communication, thermal protection, parachutes, splashdown, all of it untested with crew until now. The mission follows a free return trajectory. After a day in high Earth orbit checking systems, Orion's engine fires for roughly 6 minutes, accelerating the spacecraft to about 24,500 miles per hour, fast enough to break free from Earth's gravity and coast toward the moon. The transit takes 4 days. On day 6, the crew passes over the far side. For about 40 minutes, the moon blocks all contact with Earth. No signal in, no signal out. 4 people, alone, farther from home than any human being has ever been. Looking down at terrain no living person has seen with their own eyes since 1972. The low sun angle will cast long shadows across the surface, revealing ridges and crater rims that vanish under direct light. Then, the moon's gravity bends Orion's path and flings it back toward Earth. No engine burn needed. The same pull that drew the spacecraft in sends it home. The crew rides that momentum for 4 more days. And then comes the part that keeps engineers awake. Re-entry. Orion will hit the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour. At that speed, air compresses, superheats, and wraps the capsule in plasma. The heat shield's surface reaches 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to melt steel and vaporize aluminum. The only barrier between that heat and 4 people is a material called AVCoat, applied in about 180 blocks to the base of the capsule. AVCoat has heritage. It is based on what protected Apollo capsules in the 60s and 70s, but on Orion, it is applied differently. Apollo used a single honeycomb matrix of over 300,000 cells. Orion uses separate blocks. In 2022, NASA sent an uncrewed Orion around the moon on Artemis I. When engineers recovered the capsule and examined the heat shield, they found more than 100 locations where AVCoat had cracked and broken away in chunks. Not the smooth ablation they expected, irregular, unpredictable material loss. The investigation found the cause. Orion had flown a skip re-entry, dipping into the atmosphere, bouncing back out, then re-entering. During the pause between passes, heat soaked into the AVCoat with nowhere to go. Gases built up. Pressure rose. The shield cracked from the inside out. 3 of 4 separation bolts embedded in the shield melted through their thermal barriers. The parachutes were never recovered from the ocean floor. NASA did not replace the shield. The AVCoat on Artemis II is the same design, and by some accounts slightly less permeable, meaning trapped gases would have an even harder time escaping. What NASA changed is the re-entry path. Instead of the skip, a direct entry. One continuous plunge, steeper and faster. Higher peak heat, but shorter duration. No pause for gas to build. They ran simulations with worse damage than Artemis I and concluded the structure would hold. They changed the trajectory. They did not change the shield. And they put 4 people on it. Not everyone agreed. Charles Camarda, a former shuttle astronaut and heat shield expert, publicly warned it echoed the reasoning that preceded Challenger and Columbia. NASA's response was that the direct profile eliminates the conditions that caused the failure. They also announced a redesigned shield for Artemis III, which means the agency knows the current design is not what they would choose given more time. The crew reviewed the data. They met with engineers, they asked their questions, and they chose to fly. If they return safely, the door opens. Artemis III tests docking and operations in lunar orbit. Artemis IV lands astronauts at the South Pole and begins building the Gateway Station. Then more missions, more infrastructure, a permanent human presence on the surface. The ice, the fuel, the launch pad, all of it starts with these 10 days. 53 years ago, we reached another world and found dust, rock, and silence, and decided there was no reason to go back. The reason was there the whole time, frozen in the dark, waiting. Now 4 people are on their way to prove that this time we are not just visiting. We are building the road that stays.